Hello, I'm Goran Topalovic. I've been curating Asian films and Korean films in particular for over 20 years. And this was a great opportunity to work together again with Eric from the Korean Film Archive and to introduce some great works of classic Korean cinema to audiences here in London.
Couldn't have said it better. I'm Eric, a film curator from the Korean Film Archive, as Goran said.
And how did you guys get together originally for this program?
Oh, it's been a long time. We've had a friendship and a partnership. We've worked on many other projects in the past. This opportunity came about when BFI was interested in doing a Korean film season. And then Eric, I guess they got in touch with Korean Cultural Center.
Yeah, and then the Korean Cultural Center contacted me because while at the time the theme of the program wasn't set in place, it was up in the air, but there was a sense that it was going to be revolving around classic Korean cinema, and so the Korean Film Archive would definitely be involved in that in one way or the other. And so the proposal was that we would be involved in from the curatorial standpoint, so from the curation to the delivery of the materials. So, and I definitely, we couldn't pass that opportunity down. And since Goran and I had a relationship programming Korean programs in the past, we decided this was a great.
Most recently we collaborated on a comprehensive 1960s retrospective, which took place last fall in New York at Film and Lincoln Center.
And so, what were the main differences or changes you had to make to bring the program to London?
Yeah, that's interesting. So with this program, when we began, we were given. So we were told 30 films, which is actually quite a substantial number of films, and the BFI asked for a wide range of films from the early cinema to the late cinema, and also a diverse range of films. And so we thought about the possibilities of that. And decided since we'd had a lot of experience researching and curating the Golden Age and New Korean cinema, the idea of combining those two eras, which actually, when you actually think about it, have a lot of parallels, both being Renaissance periods, we found potential in that. An interesting juxtaposition between 60s films and 90s, 2000 films. So that's the direction we decided to go with.
And then to answer, how that was different from the program we've done, last fall. Well, we obviously had to, cut it down to size, right? Because in order to equally represent both 60s Golden Age as well as New Korean cinema, roughly 15 titles. For each, right? So, which was very difficult to do, right?
Okay, and
this question is specifically for Goran.
Oh.
So, when did you first become aware of Korean cinema in general, and then how did you get interested in classic Korean films?
So, it really started with Shiri. I think for a lot of us, that was the big kind of discovery, blockbuster, right? So, and a film that, received a lot of attention internationally. So that was the first of Korean film that I've seen, and it really got me interested to learn more about it. And I started watching other movies. I kind of ordered a whole bunch of VCDs online, and I watched Attack the Gas Station, Beat, and, Nowhere to Hide. And that just kind of opened up a whole new world. And then in New York, with our organization Subway Cinema, we've been running screenings of Asian films, so we increasingly started showing Korean movies, and we actually organized the first New York Korean Film Festival in 2001, right? And then it just kind of grew from there.
Did it get evolved into the New York Asian Film Festival?
Right after that, we then started with the New York Asian because we wanted to have like a bigger platform, right? We didn't want it to be just, one particular national cinema, right? And just to get more attention and from that standpoint. And then the interest in exploring more about and learning more about classic cinema just kind of happened naturally. And it's still ongoing, right? Because right now we're studying 70s cinema, so we're hoping maybe we'll do something like that in the future, right? So yeah, and some of these older films are actually better than a lot of the new movies that are coming out, so it's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then for Youngjin, Eric, so we heard that it's the 50th anniversary of the Korean Film Archive. For anyone who's not familiar with KOFA, could you tell us a bit more about what the archive does exactly and some of the important films that they've restored?
Yeah, so the Korean Film Archive was established in 1974, and it is the National Film Archive of South Korea. Our mission is to preserve and make accessible for future generations Korean films, Korean film-related materials. And in terms of restoration, we began digital restoration in 2007, and I believe we've restored more than 110 films by this year. So it's quite an accomplishment, and we've also been early in the streaming access portion of things. So we actually have a YouTube channel where we have uploaded over 100 films by now, and that has been, I think, received very well by people all around the world. We make it accessible with English subtitles, so that people
It's a very
can.
useful resource for sure.
I just wanted to add, I mean, just remarkable the amount of work that the Korean Film Archive has done over the years. on that front. I mean, we wouldn't not be able to have this series today without all of their past work. And
So did they allow you to choose whatever films you wanted, or were there some sort of specific restrictions?
No, I mean, in terms of this program, the BFI have been amazing in terms of just allowing us to the complete creative freedom to choose the films. And they did have suggestions in terms of, I mean, we were going to do it anyway, but in terms of including female voices whenever we can, and sort of considering those kind of the diversity aspect of things, and so, and that was helpful. But in terms of the lineup, it was just all up to us, and that was really
and the only limitations that we faced as curators is really availability of some materials or rights issues, rights issues in particular. But that happens all the time, right?
So if you had access to like potentially hundreds of films, did you watch, like, how many did you watch, and then how did you narrow them down? What was the process for that?
So the lucky thing for us was that we had done a lot of the groundwork with previous curations that we've done. So Goran in particular had curated a new Korean cinema retrospective a couple of years ago, and we had collaborated on a 60s program last year. And so a lot of the groundwork, a lot of the research, a lot of the film watching had been covered, although we did have to obviously like watch more films and see how we can differentiate this program from those programs. But we were honestly constrained with time. We didn't have a lot of time, to be honest, to actually put together this program. It was very last minute. And so that was sort of very helpful.
And as far as our research process, right? So certainly we wanted to present as complete of a picture as possible, right? And we wanted to cover all the different genres and types of films. But we also wanted to evaluate them from the standpoint, a lot of the films that we watched, maybe we liked them personally, but we didn't feel that they would really play well with today's audiences. They may be important from a historical standpoint, but they didn't really stand the test of time, right?
Right. Okay, thank you.
So as going through the programming, as the importance of golden age of Korean cinema, 1960s, and the Korean new wave in 2000, how do you reckon those juxtaposition and the parallel between those periods? And is there any specific reason why you selected those era?
Yes. So we approached this program as an introduction to Korean cinema, and I'm sure a lot of people became familiar about Korean cinema through Bong Joon-ho and Parasite in particular, and Squid Game and other popular content. And so the idea was, they're curious to learn more, and we wanted this to be kind of an introduction, like a Korean cinema 101 in a way. And what better way to do that than to put a spotlight on two time periods in the history of Korean cinema that are really high watermarks. And because these are really the two most, as Eric mentioned previously, these are the considered renaissances of Korean cinema. So they mirror each other from the standpoint of all the creativity and innovation and transformation that the industry went through, and international recognition, international collaborations. And of course, they're different in their own way, but New Korean cinema is kind of call back to the glory days of the 60s Korean cinema. And of course, some of the New Korean cinema filmmakers are fans of some of the 60s works, right? I mean, especially Kim Ki-young's works are respected by Park Chan-wook, by Bong Joon-ho, and then even Kim Ji-woon and Ryu Sung-wan are also fans of some of the older action movies. So,
yeah. I mean, the one thing I would add also is that we like Goran said, we approached this as an introduction, but another thing we were excited about is that even for people who were familiar with New Korean cinema in particular, I know a lot of people, maybe their gateway was not necessarily Parasite, but maybe Old Boy when that came out. But for a lot of people, they have never had a chance to see it on the big screen in theaters. And so this was an opportunity to revisit those classics for people who were even familiar with Korean cinema. So that was very exciting as well.
Absolutely. And it's also exciting for us.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Sure. So yeah, you mentioned Parasite briefly, and obviously that was a great success story in recent years, and then other Korean films and Squid Game. And why do you think Korean cinema has expanded so rapidly into the international market, and what aspects of Korean films appeal to the global audience in particular?
That's a really good question.
That's a good question.
If it was just a formula that everyone can follow and then recreate the same success. But I guess if you look at a kind of unique historical development of Korea, even as a country, and even especially what really contributed to that explosion of the new Korean cinema, I think the most significant trigger for that was when the censorship was removed in 1996 officially, because the constitutional law essentially declared that any kind of film and video censorship pre-release is unconstitutional. And then really the floodgates were open in a way, because you had this kind of pent-up energy that was controlled from starting with the Japanese colonial era, then continuing with, you had Korean War, of course, and then the military governments and authoritarian approach to controlling and censoring film and considering it more as an ideological propaganda tool. So there was never really true freedom of expression from that standpoint in that history of Korean cinema in the modern era. And when 96 happened, and there were other conditions, of course, that were already there. You had the new generation of filmmakers with new ideas who were also cinephiles, who were influenced by genre cinema. And just really the rise of cinephilia in Korea itself, with starting of publishing a lot of film magazines, Kino, Cine 21, then, Busan Film Festival, it was also launched in 96. So there was a very, very critical year. So I think if you put all those elements together, it was just the magic happened, right? And it just kind of continued that growth and, internationalization, and also the business and the industry component of that was also important, because the new companies and the new studios were really savvy, but there was also a strong government support in promoting and supporting Korean cinema, and there was a conscious effort made by the government to do that as well. So we can probably spend 30 minutes talking about all the various reasons why, but right.
If you can only see one or two films at this festival,
Oh.
which one
I knew this was coming.
Why? So which one was your personal favorite?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to do this,
so
right?
hard.
I mean, I would recommend different films to different audiences depending on their familiarity, depending on what kind of films they like, of course, right?
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. If there's a must-see movie, it's really hard to pick just one or two.
It's really difficult because they're all honestly must-see.
I mean, you can't go wrong with any of these films.
Yes.
I just want to say that.
Yeah.
Right? You're not going to regret for seeing any of them, but if you have to choose, oh man, I can just speak maybe my own personal favorites. Like for example, I love director Eun-won says Nowhere to Hide. It's
or maybe any other like hidden gem that most.
Well, I would say one of the maybe more overlooked masterpieces of new Korean cinema. I would say Waikiki Brothers.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
That film doesn't get enough recognition and attention, I believe. So that's the one that people might want to check out. So yeah.
And if I guess that. If Goran, you picked a new Korean cinema entry. So if I were to talk about the golden age, which I think there are a lot of hidden gems that are awaiting discovery. I'd say one of them is a woman judge, which actually the first screening was yesterday, and
I watched it yesterday.
Oh, you were here yesterday. Oh, that's great. Yeah, it's such an interesting film from both a historical standpoint, from an artistic standpoint, and from sort of outside the film, the behind the scenes from an archival standpoint as well. It's the first, or rather, it's the second Korean film directed by a female filmmaker in all of the Korean film history. The film is about a modern woman fighting against the traditional norms of society, which is actually what director Eun-won was doing at the time as becoming a director of cinema. And it was a film that was considered lost for decades, for over 50 years, until it was discovered in 2015. And unfortunately, it's in the worst. I mean, you've seen it. It's in a terrible condition. It was a beat up 16 millimeter print that's been locked away in a container for years. So it's in a horrible condition, but in a way, seeing the film in that state reminds you of the importance of the work we do as an archive, and it also brings to light, the fact that a lot of the times women's history tends to be hidden away, tends to be not equally preserved like the rest of history, and so it a lot of that kind of comes through when you watch the film in that state. So I know that a lot of people found it difficult to watch the film, and I've been reading reviews of people's reactions. But I would say, I would venture to say that it's worth the experience of kind of, because I believe the story within the celluloid is strong enough that it actually bursts through that noise. So I would say that. And if I could talk about one more gem, I would say I personally love Let's Meet at Walker Hill, which is filmed by director Hyeong-Mo from 1966, I believe. And it's a comedy musical, which is the only one of its kind within this season, and it's I think a lot of the films that we know within Korean cinema tend to be more heavy dramas and social realist dramas, whereas this film is very lighthearted. It's very comedic. It's also as a musical, it it's a perfect time capsule of the music scene from the 60s. So anybody who's interested in K-pop now, if you wanted to hear the sounds of K-pop and also Western pop as it was sung in Korea in the 60s, it's a perfect film to watch. And it also showcases the city of Seoul at the time really well. And it's colorful and vibrant, and I just personally love watching it as just a time capsule of the 60s.
Yeah. I would agree, and it was really all shot on location, right?
Yeah.
So it's all from bars and clubs in Seoul that all the musical performances are from. So from that era.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Do you have any final words for the audience about the festival?
Yes, absolutely. So try to see everything. and the season will be running through December. Many wonderful films to see and to choose from, and unique opportunity to see them on the big screen. So I hope you'll take advantage of that.
Yeah, I would echo this. I would echo the same thing.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.